Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. It is June 15th. Hopefully, y'all are having a good morning so far. Looking at the data that's come out this morning, we did see jobless claims ticking higher than expected at 262,000 initial jobless claims, so filed this week versus 250,000 expected. And this is the same as last week at 262. The continuing jobless claims also went up to 1775 versus 1761 expected, up from 1755 as of last week. So this ended up in the dollar coming down this morning in recession fears, back to yesterday's lows right before the Fed meeting. And if we're looking at the other fundamentals, the 10-year is pulling back from this too. Gold actually, surprisingly, isn't going up with this. You would expect gold to go up in recession theme, but today it's still a little bit lower for GLD at 180.2 versus 180.64 at close, but decent pre-market run from 178. So this could be a runner today if the dollar keeps its downtrend going. QQQ currently down about I think 0.4%. Let's see. Yeah, 0.4%. The S&P down by 0.2%. I think that the Dow Jones is flat. Yeah, zero change here. And the Russell 2000 was down 0.4% this morning. So we're seeing the Russell and QQQ selling off, whereas we're seeing the Dow Jones flat. So we could have a potential rotation trade going into the Dow Jones at right now. But yeah, currently looking at Tesla finally pulling back from its gamma squeeze all the way to 265 yesterday morning. Currently down to 249. So we'll see if this downtrend continues. Definitely had a pretty rough sell-off in the pre-market. Looking at NVIDIA, the other gamma squeeze going on. This one's at 425, so really hasn't lost its steam. And yesterday it did eclipse $430 with a high in the after hours at 433.34. This one I probably expect to keep going just because it still has that momentum going for it. And then I think Apple could be the next possible squeeze just because of how many options are expiring for this Friday at the 185 strike price. So watch out for Apple today. I think that could be a decent run. Good morning, Tiffany. Target looking for a rebound. Let's see. TGT 135 up from 125. Yeah, decent rebound. Finally getting above, let's see, 133.5 was a resistance before, and now that's a support level. So looks like you have a solid rebound going in on the hourly chart. It's at 81 on the RSI. Let's see where the open interest and everything lays. I don't think that Target's going to be too sexy a stock to get moving in one direction or another, but yeah, there's really not that much open interest for their options. The best open interest that you're seeing is 10,000, almost 140 puts. So that could have some downward pressure at 140, but right now we're at 135, so it still has quite a bit to go in the next 2 days. But yeah, that is the market this morning. Probably going to be taking profits on my Tesla trade because the markets can switch up real quick with these gamma squeezes. Looking at NVIDIA especially in the last couple of days has been a crazy ride from 390. That's when it started to go up. Saw that initial pop above 390 and it just didn't stop. But yeah, Tesla's below 250. Decent pullback, 3.5% in the red today. My contracts are going for 410 right now. We're making a new low here. Let's see, they're going for 400. The bid ask is really bad on them. Of course, whenever I want to close, typical. I'll try to get out at 4. I don't know if I'll be able to actually get that price, but that'll be my goal, to get out at 400. Apple's trying to get to 184. Again, the squeeze is going to be above 185 if it can manage that today. So if you're looking for an upside trade, I think Apple has it. Maybe Nvidia. You are a little bit late to the party, though, for Nvidia, I would say. Amazon's pulling back. Nvidia trading flat so far. Google pulling back from its highs. Meta flat. And there's Apple right there, ticking higher. Yeah, so I think I'm going to take an Apple trade if I can. If I can get out of this Tesla put debit spread first, that'll be main objective, to take profits there. Because Tesla is going right back up. To 252 right now. They're not filling my order for the life of me. All right, I'll lower it to 370. I think that's the best. 3.7. All right, yeah, I got out a 370 credit. Originally opened that for I think 210, so it's 150 profit I got from that. Let's see, closing options alert, and then we'll try to get into Apple before it's too late. Just took profits on the Tesla put debit spread expiring Friday 6/16 at 370. Strike prices were 355, 360. All right. The Apple calls are only going for 75 cents, so they're pretty cheap to get into. I would say if you do get the gamma squeeze above 185, these could really get up there. They're going for 70 now, so a little bit cheaper. Looking at QQQ, it's about 0.5% in the red. Apple's really the only thing that's going up so far this morning. Microsoft's kind of following along with what Apple's doing, but not nearly as much. But yeah, I'm going to try to get these at 70-ish, 70, 72 maybe. Looks like I might have to pay 75 for them. Yeah. I got them at 74 actually. New options alert, premium. Just bought a new Apple 185 call expiring 6/16. At 72 or 74. So yeah, reasoning behind this, looking at the 185 calls, there's 125,000 in open interest. Looking at the puts, there's really no open interest until you get down to 180 with 50,000 there. So lots of upside pressure if we do breach 185. How many did I buy of Apple? 3 of them. 70. I bought them at 74, 3 of them. So it was a total of $228 I spent for it. I think we could have bought those yesterday at 50 cents, which would have been better, but did not take that opportunity in time before the close. All right, we're pulling back first thing after opening those to 184. Contracts have dropped about 20%, 62, 63. Decently sized pullback there too. Let's see, for QQQ it's down still 0.5%, so it really hasn't changed much. So I think I'm going to just keep on holding until maybe we drop. I'd say 183.80 might be enough for me to get out. But again, there's not a lot of pressure to sell Apple right now based on the options chain. So still feeling bullish on it even with the pullback. Could have got the contracts cheaper. They're going for 67, 68 now instead of the 74 I paid on them, but still has the potential to go up above 185, I think. Bought just below 60. That's good. Definitely a good price on them. All right, we just reverse all of that pullback and then some. It's a new 2-day high. On the hourly chart, we still have to cross 184.95 for a new monthly high, but we're getting close. Especially with the open interest at the 185 strike price, I think we could possibly breach the new monthly high. Still very bullish. You're looking at 63 RSI for the hourly chart. Looks like Microsoft's kind of the same way, about 61 on the RSI. So Microsoft, Apple being the leaders today's market. Tesla being the loser, down 1.6%. Ended up taking profits on my put debit spreads, and now it's recovered a little bit more. You're seeing QQQ going up a bit right here, only down 0.25% now. Mostly just Apple and Microsoft adding to the gains on Qs. You're seeing Meta recovering a tad too. Alright, let's see if we can breach 184.50 again. It's very close to it, but still got 50 cents for the gamma squeeze to ensue. 190 call. I think 190 for Apple would be a stretch. Just given that it's such a large market cap, $2 trillion market cap, it's hard to move, $5. That would be 5 over 185. That would be a 2.7% gain in just a couple of days. So it's possible. It's just unlikely that it would squeeze that high that quickly. If you give it maybe another week till expiration, I could see it. But then there's not going to be as much open interest in next week's expiration as there is for this week, just because it's the OPEX, the monthly options expiration. It's also quad witching, so it's the quarterly on top of all the futures that are expiring, on top of the VIX options expiring and everything like that. So it's a lot more momentum in this expiration than next week's expiration. There's still decent open interest for the 185 calls. Like 30,000 is nothing to scoff at. And then 20,000 of the 190s. But if you're comparing it to this week, you're looking at 100,000 plus calls at the 185 strike price. 130,000 almost. Looks like Microsoft might actually be the real gamma squeeze today. Looking at the 340 strike price, I'd imagine. There's 15,000 calls. It's not that many. And if you're comparing it to something like Apple, it doesn't really amount to much. But there's a lot of open interest below too. 14,000, 15,000 of the 335s, 17,000 of the 330s. Whereas Apple, I wonder how much open interest is below us. You have 40,000 of the 180, 250s, 60,000 of the 180s. A lot of volume getting into the 185s this morning too, which is good. That'll help support us if we do end up getting to 185, which we're about 40 cents away from as of right now. Very, very close. $42.20, $44.20 on ES. Yeah, SPY's up 0.15%. QQQ is breaking even now. So you're almost back to the highs on QQQ. Again, this is largely being fed by Apple, Microsoft. Microsoft's up 1% now, so that's pretty huge. It's $2 trillion market cap, so whenever that goes up 1%, it carries a lot of weight to it. Apple's only up 0.4, so it's not nearly as big, but yeah, Apple and Microsoft being up that much has a huge weight to it. Nvidia is not quite at 430 just yet, and Tesla's trying to recover what it lost last night. Good morning. Welcome, Mitch. Glad you're here, even if you're late. Microsoft's going to make that all-time high today. Let's see. What is all-time high for Microsoft? I figured it would have already reached 350 is what you're looking for. That's another $10. So that's what, like 3% for it? 10 over 340. Yeah, 2.9%. It could hit. It's still a lot for a $2 trillion company to go up 3% in a day, though. We did see the opposite of that last week, where Microsoft went down 3% in a day. So going up 3% in a day could be warranted. Apple's getting so close to 185, but not quite there. My calls are up a little bit now. 8% to 80 cents a piece. I got them for 74 cents. $344.80 for which stock? $4 off. Oh, you're talking about Microsoft. Microsoft, you're seeing at 341.20 right now. All right, Apple's getting there at 185. Just tagged it right now. My options are up 30%. And this is where the gamma squeeze would ensue if it does breach the 185 level. Pulling out of Weeble. All right, Apple. Does it have it in it? It hit 185 and pulled right back from it. We'll see if it tests it a second time. I'm sure there's a lot of calls getting bought right now at 185, 40,000 so far this morning. So you have about a third of the open interest getting open this morning. Come on, Apple, just a few more cents. That's all you need. Really, you want to see it probably 40-50 cents above 185 for the gamma squeeze to really ramp up. Just to solidify that 185 number. I do think that's a new high for it, though. I think the previous was 184.99. So just a penny higher. That's all it is. Yeah, previous high was 184.95 actually. So 5 cents higher. But yeah, Microsoft, Apple doing wonders for the market right now. Even Meta trading pretty close to its monthly highs too. Looking at the open interest on Meta, not sure where this is headed next. There's not that much open interest above for a gamma squeeze, I don't think. You have 14,280 calls versus 16,000 of the 275s. So I don't know if you'll get the same kind of gamma squeeze for Meta as you will for Apple, Microsoft. What type of options trade did I do for Apple? I did just a straight 185 call. Just bought a 185 call. I got it for 74. It's trading for 94 right now. It hit 185.10, so just barely above. Again, you want to see a decent gap between the 185 level if you want to get that gamma squeeze to really start. So you want to see this probably 185.50 or so for people to start really going ham, because then those options become in the money. They're deep enough in the money to where the market maker is going to start having to hedge their positions. TQQQ is up by 0.1% now. You're seeing a recovery for Tesla. Nvidia is actually pulling back though. So Nvidia lost its steam at 430, it seems. Could be a similar trade to Tesla where it ended up coming back from 265 to 250. For Nvidia, that would probably be a pullback. I would say 420, 415 maybe. All right, Apple's just above 185 again. Still need another 10, 20 cents for it to be in the money. Yeah, I did hit 185. All right, my contracts are up about 40% now. $93 of profits from it so far. I think I might call it here. Or at least sell part of the position and ride the rest. They just dropped the contracts down to 92. All right. Well, to me that looks like we peaked above and failed at 185, so probably not going to be much more buyers convinced of this going over 185 today. So I'm going to try to sell them at 90 or 88. Take my profits and leave. Yeah, I got filled at 89 actually. It's a nice little $50 profit or so. Still got some TQs calls that could print us some if Apple and Microsoft keep going crazy. So not too worried about missing out on any upside. Alright, let's check in on QQQ. Trading at 366.30, up 0.1% today. Almost back to the after hour highs at 366.88. Still about 70 cents away from it though. Let's see where the options are for today. It's really not a lot of open interest. You're seeing a decent amount at 368, but it's only 5,000 contracts. If you're looking at the puts, there's a lot more puts at the 365. There's 8,900 puts, but the volume is really building on the call side today. You have 16,000 calls traded for the 365 strike price and only 11,000 puts. So lots more people in calls this morning. Nvidia's pulling back again. I think this one's going to be similar to what Tesla has done the last couple of days after it ended its gamma squeeze. So 420 definitely in the cards. 415 maybe. Let's say your worst case scenario, pulling back to 410 for Nvidia. Looks like that pullback on Apple was short-lived again. Similar to that one. Still going up here. So So that should lead QQQ to some gains. If you're getting a gamma squeeze in Apple and Microsoft. But you're seeing a decent pullback on Nvidia that could kind of weigh that down a bit. It's down 1.8%, whereas Apple's up 0.6%, Microsoft's up 1%. So if you add up the market caps, I think Nvidia's like 1 trillion, Apple's 2 trillion, Microsoft's 2 trillion. So these two still have more positive weight than Nvidia has negative weight to it. Good morning. Friday Eve, yeah. That it is. Yeah, Apple's just kind of finding a balance at 185. Trying to head higher each time on the pullbacks. Let's see, the 185 calls going for 106, 107. Really wish I got in on those contracts yesterday. They were going for 50 cents. Right at the close. Very, very cheap. Gonna try to find some more cheap contracts. We only have one more day until the gamma squeeze ends, though, so not a lot of time for it to play out. Let's see if Microsoft could be a good candidate. There's 15,000 of the 340 strike prices, so there's not that much open interest below us to keep us propped up, but the 350s have 21,000. They're going for 40 cents a pop. I would want to see more open interest below us than what we have, but there's not really any puts here. Not a lot of bears. Let's see what these contracts have been going for. The 350 calls on Microsoft. Yesterday at close, they were going for 17 cents. Now they're 41. Peaked at 52. Now they're trading for 41. Let's see. I think getting Microsoft all the way to 350 would be a very big stretch. But that's not to say that the contracts can't rise in value. There's Apple just murdering it. 0.9% now. Seems like that positivity is actually getting passed down to the negative names. Amazon's only down 0.9 or 0.2% now, and Tesla's flat. I wonder if you'll have a re-acceleration of the gamma squeeze in Tesla. Let's see, the 260s would be what you're looking for. 33,000 open interest, 30,000 calls bought this morning, so they're doubling down here. Not a lot of puts bought this morning. There was a decent amount at 250, but that is far and away from 256. So yeah, looking at 260, that could be a decent strike to pick. They are going for $320 though, so it's pretty expensive for a one data expiration contract. I wouldn't want to pay that much. Very expensive. Got the electric can opener cranking. Palantir. Let's see, PLTR. Palantir trading at 16. Looking at the hourly chart, getting close to its few day highs at 16.20. Still not quite to the monthly highs at 17. Looking at the option chain, lots of calls at the 16 strike. Not nearly as many above that. You have 24,000 at the 17 strike and 28,000 at the 18 strike. It's not a lot of volume behind it this morning, though, to really convince me of a gamma squeeze here. If you're looking at the puts, there's a decent amount of 1550s and then 15s, but not a lot of volume going into those either. So don't think Palantir would be a good candidate for a short squeeze or for a gamma squeeze here. They are cheap though. I mean, you're only paying 12-13 cents for them, so you could buy like 10 of them and only spend $100, which is nice. And if it does, it managed all the way up to 16. Let's see how much those contracts would gain. I would imagine probably a good 30 cents a piece they would be going for. So you could turn 100 into like 300 if it does manage to get to 17 today. There's QQQ going green, hitting the highs, 367. Here we go, baby. New highs every day for QQQ. Doesn't stop. Crazy, crazy stock. Do I have a screener for gamma squeezes or just manually search open interest? I just manually search it with Thinkorswim. So just going through like the top names like Nvidia, Apple, Tesla, the ones that are very popular, and then just going through those and seeing how much open interest there is above and below us. Damn. Apple's almost 186 now, so I screwed up there with letting those down. Let's see, the 185s are going for 135 now. Damn. That sucks. 70,000 volume almost. It's a lot of people buying into those. And then 128,000 in open interest. You have a decent amount of open interest in the 190s as well. but it's not 130,000 like the 185, so it could reach 190, but that would be a stretch, I would think. And there's not that many people buying into the 190s yet either. There's only 8,000 contracts traded this morning for the 190s. Microsoft, though, that one's still trucking along with the gamma squeeze there. The 350s are going for 62 cents. I think we were looking at them for 30 cents. Let's see. Yeah, they're going for 40. Now they're up to 60. Me sitting here with 190 calls. Crazy. Couldn't be me. But yeah, those 185 calls, they were cheap. Yesterday, they were going for 50 cents. I thought that was a bargain. Should have bought them yesterday, but it's okay. QQQ up by 0.4% now to 367.20. Let's see what TQs is doing. I do have a long position there. Now TQs you can't really get a gamma squeeze out of because it's just relying on what QQQ does. But the hottest tables are the, let's see, the $40 strike price, 25,000 calls there. 30,000 calls at the 45 strike price. They're going for 2-3 cents a piece, so not really much value in those yet. And there's only 130 traded this morning, so nobody really buying into those. If you're looking at the 40 strikes, there's about 7,000 volume. It's not really that much compared to the open interest at 25. It's only 30% of the open interest there. And then if you look at regular Qs, QQQ, trading at 367 right now. This is today's expiration. We want to look for tomorrow for the gamma. 18,500 to the 367 calls. 370 has 15,000. There's not really much in between there that would convince me there's just going to be a huge gamma squeeze to 370 plus. There's a lot of 365s, 25,000 of those to keep us above 365. A lot of volume that went into those, 10,000 this morning. And then for the puts, you don't really have much competition up here at 365. You have 12,000 puts at the 365 strike, but it's not really significant compared to the double the number of calls at 25,000. Is today a best example of FOMO? It could be. I think it's just mostly driven by options, though, especially with this week's expiration. The monthly expiration is always the most volatile. So really, I feel like it's a lot of market makers having to cover their positions. Everybody buying calls for the past month because everything has been going up. So now the market makers are scrambling to buy the shares that they're going to owe if they get assigned on the calls that they're selling to everybody. After this week, that's going to be what's interesting, because then the open interest and the volume is going to start to drop off. Should I sit on my Tesla calls? I think that the Tesla gamma squeeze is over. You could see it trading back to 260, but at this point, I don't see it going much above that. Because there's really not a lot in between. I mean, you have 25,000 of the 265s, which is decent, but the 262s you don't have a lot of volume or a lot of open interest for. People are doubling down on the 260s though. Apple's pulling back a little bit from its highs at 185.77. But I wouldn't be entirely convinced of a pullback below 185. Microsoft's still going here. Let's see, the VIX surprisingly up 1.7%, even with SPY up half. Usually you don't see those two going up at the same time. Convergence usually means more downside to come if people are hedging. But I wouldn't expect any downside until probably next week, just because of how many calls are expiring for this week. The dollar index is getting crushed down to 102.45. So gold should be seeing a decent rise, yeah. Up by 0.5% now. QQQ pulling back from 367.50. So I think I'm probably going to close my TQ's calls, since there's really not a lot of open interest above us for QQQ to keep going up in a huge end of the week squeeze. Above 365 was easy. There's 25,000 calls there, but 367 there's only 18,000, and the 370s only have 15,000. So people aren't expecting that much more upside on QQQ tomorrow. And even today, I don't think there's that much pressure to keep us going higher. There's a lot of volume going into the calls, 20,000 between the 365, 366, 367 strike prices. But the open interest is very low. And then for the puts, no open interest until the 365 strike price, with 8,900 there and 27,000 in volume. So people are quadrupling down on the 365 puts. If we can get to 368 by the end of today, there's a decent amount of open interest there, but it's not really a ton above. So I think I'm going to get out of my TQ's calls for basically break even. All right. Yeah, I sold those for 53 each. Bottom for 52, so $3 profit. Not really much. Just took profits for the TQQQ 41 call expiring 6/16 at 53. Microsoft still going up there. 344 now. So yeah, the 350 calls were a good buy this morning. At 40 cents, now they're 72. Microsoft has been neglecting its cardio. Can Adobe see any NVIDIA like earnings response, or is it already priced in? It's already trading at yearly highs, so it's up a ton. It's not to say that I can't see something like NVIDIA. I'm actually thinking that it could be above 500, even with it trading at 52-week highs, just considering that their earnings per share has continued to be really, really good for the past few quarters. Now, if they do have a slip up in their earnings per share where it ends up dropping, then that would be a concern for the markets and probably send it down. But let's see what earnings expectations are. Earnings whispers for Adobe tomorrow, or it's actually today after hours. Expected at 379, so they're expected to do just a penny worse than last quarter. That's kind of dangerous for it, to where they could end up missing, unless you expect just record earnings for the quarter. I'm surprised that Wall Street would estimate so high. So I'm not too sure of a beat on Adobe and getting up to 500. If it's a cheap trade, then I would take it. Let's see. The options is expected to move, I think, like 8%. 37 over 480. Yeah, 7.7%. Looking at the popular strike prices, the 500 has 4,400 in open interest. 1,000 calls getting bought this morning, but they're going for $1,100. So you're spending a lot of money to buy that, which I wouldn't be too comfortable with. If you want to get cheap, you're having to go to like 600 to get these contracts below $100 a piece. So that I wouldn't want to take. I wouldn't expect, a 20-30% move for Adobe. It's possible, but I think it's going to be more like a 10 to 15% move. It'll be more than what's expected. but not along the lines of NVIDIA. Unless they mention artificial intelligence 50 times, then maybe. Maybe then they can go up 30%. Yeah, NVIDIA's not really playing along with this morning's rally. So I guess exhaustion is finally set in for NVIDIA. Finding some supports at 421, but not getting down to 420 just yet. Let's see. 415 strikes are going for 200 each. Hey, you're going way down there. The 400 puts are going for 37. But you need a huge capitulation. Let's see. That would be a $25 move. These contracts don't seem to be doing too hot either. They're trading cheap, but they're cheap for a good reason. Let's see the hourly chart for it. For NVIDIA, I think it's still bullish on the hourly chart. Yeah, you're still at 61 RSI. So it's hard to count it down and out for the end of a gamma squeeze, but it does seem to be exhausted at 430. There's Q's going higher, still 368. So this is where you'll get a lot of buyers for today's expiration. 8,000 in volume and 6,500. Oh, that's for tomorrow's expiration. For today, 5,000 open interest, 15,000 in volume. Microsoft got a second wind. It's almost at all-time highs, not quite there. Yeah, catching a second, third wind. Let's see, 1, 2. Yeah, everybody's aiming for 350. I would love to get those contracts on the first move up. That squeeze right there would have been nice, but the second squeeze, you're going to be overpaying for them now. Tesla's trying to get to 260. That might happen. But those contracts are still very expensive, so not a huge fan of them. Yeah, you're paying $360 for them. And they don't get cheap until you're at the 270 strike price for 120 and the 75 strike price for 70. So not a trade I want to take there. Damn, the VIX is up 1.8%, with SPY up half. Unusual, to say the least. If you buy any VIX calls, I would set your expiration for a couple weeks out, until this gamma squeeze is finished. So I'd probably set my expiration for like June 28th or July 5th. The 18 calls look pretty good at 69. Actually, the bid ask is really bad on them. 69 and 86 for the bid ask spread. If you go with the monthly expiration, it's a little bit tighter, but you're paying $100 for those, $125 for those instead of the 80 cents. It's not nearly as cheap. Any pullback on Qs, or do we expect it to keep pushing higher? It's at 367 right now. There's not a ton of push to the upside until you get to 368 and above. Let's see. For today at least, there's 5,000 calls there, and then it drops off until you hit to 370. There's 4,500 in open interest. So if you get above 368, then maybe you see some more upside. And then if you get below 365, then you'll see some more downside from there. So below 365, you would call it bearish. Above 368, you'd call that bullish for today. I think it's really going to depend on what you see out of Apple, Microsoft, and the short squeeze ends here. It still doesn't look like it's ended yet, but there is a decent pullback on the names. Any upcoming earnings I'm looking forward to? I like Adobe, but the estimates are so high. Disappointing as heck. Just pecked at all-time highs on the cheek and ran away. Nvidia is just kind of trading flat. You're not moving in any direction. Let's see where the volume is today. 20,000 calls for the 425 strike price, 35,000 calls for the 430. Damn, people would spend that much money, $400 on a 430 call. That's crazy. Couldn't be me. Let's see. Decent amount of 420 puts. 22,000 bought this morning. Not really much below that. So the bears aren't super bearish on it. And those 420 puts are $300 versus the 430 calls $400. So pretty cheap in comparison. Yeah, so I think gamma squeeze for today seems to be over, but you could see slight more upside for Microsoft. Apple's kind of hard to say. It's at 185.50, so if it does end up gaining some lows right here, yeah, you can see it to 186, but doesn't have the same momentum that it had in the open. Volume is slowing down too. Microsoft kind of the same. Volume is still kind of elevated here, but dropping off for the past 20 minutes or so. So yeah, I think that QQQ is probably going to start to pull back from here. Maybe trade flat for the day. Unless you get down to 365, then we might have some troubles for the Qs. Thinking about buying some skew shares. Let's see. To hedge for next week. Well, they're trading for $19, so they're pretty cheap. 1950 was the low, currently at 1970 for SQQQ. I want to see how much QQQ typically reverses course after. OPEX, monthly options expiration. This move was really, really big to the upside, so I would expect a decent sized pullback. But if you're looking at past moves, let's see. After OPEX, this went from 339 to 329, which was about 3%. This one went 317 to 310, $7 move. It's about 2%, a little bit more. This one changed 302 to 315. That's a $15 move. So that's, let's see, 15. That should be 5%. So that was a pretty substantial move to the upside. This one was 298, I guess, to 289. So that one was a pretty small move relatively. I think this move would be bigger just because of the rally going into it and how many options were bought. I would probably estimate maybe a 2 or 3% drop conservatively. So 367, let's say that it ends a little bit higher. Let's say that it ends this week at 370. You get a little bit more upside, and it falls 2% to 363 by the end of next week. If it moves down 3%, that would be 359. So we could expect to pull back down to 360 by the end of next week if we do get a pivot from the highs after the options expiration. So I'll set my expiration for 23rd, which is next Friday. The 360 puts themselves are going for 173, so they're expensive by themselves. That's where you'd probably want to use a spread. If you do a 365, 360 spread, you're paying 158. So that's not really that much a difference. And you're capping your upside, obviously, with the debit spread versus just a long put. It's just not that cheap. 170 for a weekly expirations. Pretty hot. Let's check it. You're not going to get a lot of open interest to guide you as to which directions the markets will go next week, but let's see. 360 strike price has 10,000 open interest, 5,000 of them bought today. Calls, you're looking at really not many calls above where we're at. So more people expecting downside next week than upside, as of right now at least. The 365s don't have that much open interest though, so there's not a lot of pressure to sell it under 365 until you get down to 360. So you would need that 7-point pullback, or about 2% for those to become in the money and for a reverse gamma squeeze to ensue. Let's see, they're going for 170 right now, 172 at the ask price. They were really hot yesterday with the drop that we got after the FOMC up to 443. Obviously, the time decay is going to eat away at those contracts. I could maybe, let's see. Let's look at the hourly chart. Yeah, this has just been on a straight downtrend. Losing value on time, and the intrinsic value is all gone. Might have to buy that closer to the end of the day today or tomorrow. Too close to 368 for my comfort right now. And Microsoft keeps wanting to go up too. Third time. Meta is trying to pump too. Let's see. Not many buyers above 280. So again, I don't think this one is a candidate for a gamma squeeze, but it is doing pretty well. It's up 1% today. Let's see what the 280 calls are trading for. $1.05, $1.08. And the 280 250s are trading for 60 cents a pop. So you can get the contracts cheap if you do expect the gamma squeeze, but I don't think that's going to happen there. Microsoft, I could see a Apple, you might see it, but I don't think that Meta is going to be in the cards. So, it doesn't look like there's many more opportunities on the board besides Microsoft. Going to 350 maybe. Paying a lot for those contracts now, but yeah, they're $100 a piece. So, for me, it's a bit expensive. But if you do expect Microsoft to get to 350, they could go up even more, so play it careful with these gamma squeezes. Try to get them as cheap as you can and see if it works out. That's all I got for today, I think. And I'll catch y'all tomorrow at 9:30. Got out of Apple. Hopefully it didn't pull out too early. Yeah, it's the hardest thing. Knowing if you're out too early. But as long as you're taking profits, you're good. Bye, Peter. I'll catch y'all later.